Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Scale Modeling with Mike Ashey. Today we're going to do something just a little bit different. A few months ago, I took my newly completed Monogram 148 scale B26 Marauder that I spent about 6 months working on, and I took it to the local club meeting, but on the way I hit a bump and the axle snapped off. And what I forgot to do, because of the weight of the model, I should have propped some flexible foam underneath the wings to help absorb the shock, and I didn't do it. So I'm going to use this as an opportunity to show you how to repair something like this. So we're going to turn the camera off. I'm going to go to the workbench and we're going to shoot some video and stills, put them together, and I'll show you how to fix this puppy, and then we'll talk about it on the backside. Stay tuned. Hey everybody. So what I've done here is I have, of course, I've already completed the things I need to complete, and I'm testing the tire right now just to make sure that it fits fairly well, and it does, and it kind of hangs a little bit of an angle, but that's okay. The glue will fix that. So I've kind of gone a little bit in reverse over here just to show you what the finished product looks like. So what I've done is I've elevated the model upside down on sections of styrofoam, and I have a small cutting board here, and I kind of use this as my background for photography for small parts. So now I can rotate it as I need to in order to do this delicate work of repairing this landing gear. So let me go ahead and pull the tire off and show you what I did. On the landing gear, what I've done is I used a sanding stick, just a nail file sanding stick. I use a lot of these in different grades. They're like $2 at any store that sells nail products. And I sanded that small surface there so that you get rid of the paint, so that you have nice contact, plastic to plastic contact between the tip of that landing gear and the inside area here of the hub. And I'll show you how I did the preparation work I did for the hub in a second. And then what I did was I carefully, as close as possible, used this punch tool to center punch onto the tip of the landing gear where the axle was. And then I used a 0.020 inch drill bit and drilled a hole into it, probably around 1/16 of an inch deep. The reason why I did that is because if you just glue the tire back on the landing gear, it's not going to be a very strong bond. So what I'm using here to help strengthen the bond is 0.020 inch stiff brass wire. And I cleaned the end with sandpaper so that the super glue would stick to it better. So with that, let's take a look at the tire. The broken portion of the axle fell inside the hub a little bit, so there was almost no gluing contact surface. So what I did was I used the same procedure here. I punched out a tiny hole, drilled into the axle with a 0.020 inch drill bit, and then I inserted the wire, clean end of that stiff brass wire, and carefully with a tiny drop of super glued into place. And then what I did was I trimmed it down to the point where I using an iterative process of putting the tire onto the landing gear, and I kept going back and forth and trimming more and more until I got it to the point where the edge of the landing gear sat right up against the hub. So to make up for that spacing, what I did was I used a 0.060 inch plastic rod. I flattened the end, and I used my drill bit, and I drilled a 0.020 inch hole, and then carefully sliced off probably about 0.020 inch thick section. And that section was then slipped on over the stiff brass wire, and you can see that section there. So now I have more gluing surface. In addition to that, I took the tip of the number 11 X-Acto blade and just very carefully scraped all around the edge here, just to give me some more plastic surface that will come in contact with the glue. So the preparation work is complete, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a tiny, tiny drop of Tester's red tube glue, this stuff right here, which has been around for probably since the late 1950s, just a very, very tiny drop in order to set the tire onto the landing gear correctly, because it does kind of sit at an angle a little bit, so that Tester's glue is really, really good. It's very tacky, and it'll hold the tire in place correctly until it dries. And then what I'll do is I'll hit the contact surface area between the tire and the landing gear with some medium set super glue, and the capillary action of the super glue will suck the super glue down into all those little areas around where that spacer is and around where the bare surface is on the landing gear, and that should fix the problem. So we'll go ahead and do that, and I'll talk to you on the backside.
Here's a close-up of the landing gear, and you can see where the axle was, and the surface is now nice and clean so that the glue will stick to it, and that hole I drilled is perfectly centered. This close-up of the tire shows you how I installed that stiff brack wire, and of course that .060 rod spacer that I created, and the tiny amount of paint that I removed around that spacer in order for the glue to have a good surface to stick to. The Tester's glue didn't hold the wheel in place like I thought it would, so what I did was I took a piece of .020 inch thick plastic and wedged it between the landing gear and the tire so that it would be properly positioned, and then I added the super glue and I let it set for about an hour, and it made a really strong bond.
Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed this evening's tutorial on how to fix an axle from a broken scale model airplane. It's pretty simple to do, but you have to take your time. So with that, happy scale modeling. Don't forget to visit us at www.mikeashey.com and be safe.